Hello again. I'm making another video here. I'm going to try a very loose wet on wet cloud treatment. I hope you can see this photo fairly well. I've sketched it up already. I've got just a cloud in the sky, a cumulus cloud. Now if you had taken one of my drawing classes, you will have heard me point out how when you really essentially the bottom of these clouds are not circular, but they're flat and ragged, like shapes. But of course, when they get close to the horizon, they become very flat bottomed. You can see it starting to happen here. But when you look up, there's ragged cloud. So this is a matter of linear perspective. This is not the greatest photo, but I just quickly snapped it to get a sense of this. I'll just have a few hills here at the bottom. But, cumulus clouds or clouds in general of any kind lend themselves to watercolor really well. So I'm going to put this aside and you can watch me work. Hopefully this will go quickly. First thing I'm going to do is wet the paper. I actually should have done that in advance. I need the paper moist for wet on wet. You can see my drawing just very roughly indicated, and I've changed the shape of the cloud a bit. Why not? The great thing with landscapes and stuff is you don't really have to. I'm going to dry it again. The paper's moist to start. Now, there is a tone over everything, and things have got a kind of a orangey, yellowy, pinky tinge. I'm using a bit of shell pink here as well, but generally it's just a very light cadmium yellow. I should have mixed this right away. So I'm just warming up, oops, too much, warming up the page a little bit because I detect a tint of warm yellow in everything. Now I'm gonna just, I don't want too much water on the surface. Now I'm going to mix a gray. I'm going to mix it with cerulean blue. I'm going to mix it with a little bit of, I forget what it is, from Holbein. It's a little bit more gouache, mainly cerulean blue, a little bit of yellow ochre, and alizarin crimson. And I've got to find the right, it'll change, it'll get warmer and cooler. It'll be cooler down below and warmer up above. Too noisy?
I didn't realize you were deep.
Okay.
Come on. Have you started?
No, I haven't stopped. I can't stop. Are you alright? Okay, where were we? Here we are. So, I'm now going to, oh, that's still too wet. It's a matter, a lot of wet on wet is a matter of, so I'm going to start down here where it's a matter of striking at just the right degree of dampness. So I'm hitting the clouds first. Again, just mixing a gray. I could mix grays in various ways, but there's blues in there. It gets bluer in spots. Bluer up here. And then there's also very warm grays, so I'll warm it up a bit with some yellow ochre. top here. It's backlit, rimlit, you know. We've got this rim lighting happening because the cloud is lit. I'm going to put a little bulge up here. The cloud is lit from behind. It's very blue in here. And I use the side of the brush here to kind of get a dragged look. And now I need it to go quite dark here, so I'm mixing the same gray. I may have to throw in some other stuff as well. Actually, there's some. So it's drying now. I'm working in the house, not outdoors, and so it's drying quicker than I would like. Using a small brush, I've got like brushes on the go all over, right? Trying to catch the same kind of rim lighting in here. I'm going to simplify this cloud a bit. Now I need to get that dark. I'm just really altering the warmth and coolness of the grey. Now I'm adding a little bit of ultramarine, a little bit of burnt sienna, because it gets quite dark down in here. I'm trying to keep it loose looking. Again, I gotta go dark. I can't get too wet. The problem with, you've got to manage the amount of pressure, water pressure in your brush constantly. This is something I can't really teach you, just point out. And you will solve this problem yourself. But the water pressure, a loaded brush has pressure. And if your paper's wet and your brush is loaded with paint and the brush is loaded with paint, it'll tend to bleed out like a tank full of water, spilling. Now in here, we need some darks. It's quite frantic, and I mean, there's serendipity and luck, lots of luck really involved in this sort of painting. Now I've completely dried up in here, but maybe that's okay. I mean, I would have preferred not to have dried up. There's some dark up in there, and we want a little bit of dark down in here, and then in behind, I'm going to kind of fake something in there. clouds heading off to the horizon, and I'm going to call that. That's it. I mean, this is my cloud treatment. Now, I'm not done yet because the clouds are just done on this, the white of the paper with this very slight yellow tint in it. I've lost something in here. It's not quite turned out the way I wanted. See if I can regain it here. I wanted something a little darker off here on the left, but the paper may have dried. I may have lost the moment. You have to work very, very... Yeah, I've lost the moment. But that's kind of got a little bit of a... Oh, shoot. Password on this now. I only get 15 minutes, unfortunately, with this camera, so we may be expiring quite quickly. Now, what I'm going to do is mix a sky blue, and I want a gradation. So the sky really is, it's very cerulean, but I'm going to chuck in a little bit of that cerulean turquoise. Turquoise in there too. And I'm going to just start dark at the top. Now, ideally, the house is too dry. I've lost my wet on wet. So I'm going to have to come back and soften some edges. But what I'm trying to do here is catch the ragged top of the cloud, the cumulus cloud. And I think it could be a little bit narrow up there. And there's a kind of a halo effect around the clouds because they are backlit. The light's behind them. Mainly cerulean. I'm chucking a little bit of a turquoise in here as well, and a little bit of a, I don't know, it's a Rossiter's blue or something. It's not necessarily what I'm using. Now, as it comes down, the blue sky that is, I'm going to try and lighten the sky up a bit. Because there's a gradation in the sky from darker above to... Now sometimes, what I prefer is to work into this while it's still wet. And unfortunately I can't do that because the paper indoors has dried. Overlap right into there. And I'm going to catch some, oh, that's too much blue, I need it to be gradated. Catch a little bit of blue in there. And I'm going to catch some blue in here, but lighter than up at the top. But I think it's looking a little bit like, very abstract, but like cloud a bit. it either works or it doesn't, this sort of thing. I mean, this isn't the greatest thing since sliced bread, but it's sort of indicative of. I'm going to go right over this, you see. Right there, I'm putting the blue right over. Now this isn't quite dried, so I may get some unfortunate. And I'm going to lighten it up, even put a little bit of that yellow tint in as we get closer to the horizon. There. So there's my sky. And to finish up, I will chuck in some mountains. And the mountains are very, you know, they're just, I'll use some cobalt blue and there's some